you have a disability or a long-term health condition that could be considered to be a disability, should you make a flexible working request to change your hours or the days or times you work or the place of work? Or should you ask your employer for reasonable adjustments under the Equality Act? Now, this is a question that comes up very often for us because what we find is that employees who have a long-term health condition, who need to reduce their hours because they're not able to cope with, for example, full-time hours due to their condition, will make a flexible working application to reduce their hours. And then when that flexible working request is refused, they are then left in a very difficult situation about what they do in terms of maintaining that job role. And I can see why people think you should make a flexible working application. And there is obviously a process for this, and normally it's set out in the handbook. But if you make a flexible working request, then your employer can refuse that request if they follow the correct process and they give you one of the statutory reasons for refusing. And they don't have to go beyond this. So they don't have to consider and tell you what their reason is behind it. Now, they should give you a bit of an explanation, but the legal rights and the legal requirements of your employer are very limited. However, if you make a request for reducing your hours as a reasonable adjustment, then the onus on your employer in terms of considering that and their reasons for refusal are much more difficult. So they have to give it more consideration, and they have to look at the medical evidence, and they have to really consider whether it's reasonable for them to do so. There's a higher threshold for employers to refuse a request for a reasonable adjustment than there is to refuse a flexible working application. So my top tip for you is, if you need to make a change to your working hours, the days or times you work, or your working location, and it's due to a long-term health condition, and you've got medical support to back this up, then you should be asking your employer to make a reasonable adjustment to your conditions of your employment in order to enable you to continue to work due to your long-term health condition or disability. If you've got any questions on this, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. It is quite a complex area, and quite often people don't realise that actually their long-term health condition does qualify as a disability for the purposes of the Equality Act. So it's always worth getting some advice if you're unsure what to do.